What's up, guys? Maximilian here, and after reflecting a little bit on the play session that I had with Resident Evil 6, if I call it Resident Evil 5 every once in a while, please totally ignore me, because I've played so much Resident Evil 5, and that game's been around for so long that I reference it too much. Looking back at the game and the different campaigns and scenarios, it was very obvious that they were going for something to show you that there is going to be a lot of variety in the game. Now let's talk about the goods and the bads. The good thing is that the atmosphere of the game seems to be intact. I like the Leon stuff. I liked how creepy it was. It actually kind of jilted me a little bit. It was scary. The stuff with Jake was really tense, like extremely tense against that boss, like running from it while other dudes are around and you have to kind of figure out what to do. That was actually really enjoyable. And then Chris was just non-stop, like, blitzkrieging action, and it was just nothing but gunplay. I'd say the scenario that's probably the most fun and you'll get the most enjoyment out of for the sake of this game is Chris's, because Chris's is all about shooting, and that's what Resident Evil games technically are all about in the end. It's about shooting monsters and shooting enemies and making your way around and, you know, being mobile. So I would say give Chris's a shot if you're really looking forward to trying something out of what the game offers later on. Leon's is super slow paced, but my impressions of this game got a little bit better than what I played at E3, and the reason being is that I'm playing it alone. When I played it at E3, I had some negative impressions of the game because the camera was still an issue. I'll get into that in a second. And a lot of the scenarios that I played didn't seem very intense. It just seemed like I was playing a third-person shooter. But when you play it alone, it's a lot better, and I'd imagine with a co-op partner on the internet, it might be a lot better too, and I kind of felt that while playing these demos. So, the other thing that still bugs me about the game, and this is kind of the pros and cons of Resident Evil 6, the graphics don't seem as good as Resident Evil 5. Like, is it just me, or are the graphics in this game not as good as the previous game, which doesn't make much sense to me. I remember RE5 being much more crisp and smooth, and the frame rate being a little better. Granted, there's a lot of really cool lighting effects going on in this game, and the lighting in this game is like, way better than RE5 from what I can remember. However, there's just, you know, a lot of screen tearing sometimes. I'm running on 720p, not 1080p. Screen tearing is when you see, like, the image kind of, like, chop up a little bit, and there's, like, a line, like a distinct line that's going through the image when it's moving. That happens sometimes. That happens a lot during cutscenes. One thing I don't really like about the game, however, is, as far as an overall story, is the fact that the game isn't campy at all. It's, like, super serious. Like, RE5 you felt was, like, super serious, but they had, like, really eccentric characters, you know, like, Wesker was a ridiculously eccentric character. They had the dude with, like, the giant forehead who was a big eccentric character as well. I haven't seen any of that in this game yet. Like, everybody in this game is, like, total real-world type of super serious situational zombie horror bioterrorist action. That's a bullet point on the back of the box. I swear to God it's gonna be, because that's how the game feels. Which is a lot different than previous Resident Evil games. Like, previous Resident Evil games, especially 4, like, embellish the fact of how campy and cheesy, like, it is. And it made it really good. I kind of like that about it. But nonetheless, what this does, by it being serious, it kind of gets you more invested in what's going on about, like, you know, the severity of your actions. So, we'll see what happens there. Getting to the gameplay, I'd say the shooting feels a little weird right now, and it most likely is because, like I was saying before, when you shoot stuff in a Resident Evil game and you move around, it's weird. Like, the first few hours or the first few minutes you play will be especially weird, because Resident Evil controls, let's just face it, they've always been awkward. And that's kind of like the challenge, is managing the controls in your character in a situation where you're in, like, survival horror. But in this one, it's a lot different, and I think the weirdest thing is that you can't look at the camera. Like, in previous, you couldn't look at the camera. This you can turn straight around, and the camera doesn't follow you, which is really weird, like, to not see the back of your character all the time in a Resident Evil over-the-shoulder type of game. And I think they did that due to the increased mobility and the options they gave each of the character. Like, I found some of the most fun in the demo to be with Jake and learning out, like, his CQC combat stuff. He had, like, a flash kick, he had, like, a Wesker palm strike, he had, like, a launching palm strike, like Wesker's in Ultimate Marvel 3, which is his standing special. A lot of like, Wesker's tiger uppercut, you know, type stuff. And it was cool, man. It was a lot of fun doing that stuff and actually doing CQC up close. I'd be challenged to try to run through Jake's demo with hand-to-hand combat only and see how that goes. I might actually give that a shot. Jake's was a lot of fun. Leon's was the most boring, but it was the most scary. So hopefully there'll be a little bit more set up and good flow for that one. But In general, the thing that still bugs me the most is the camera. The camera seems to freak out a lot, and because of how the game is now with this multiple CQC action and your characters being able to do all these other things that they weren't able to before, other than just knifing guys, the camera has to work in different ways, and I'm not too sure if it's exactly the best as of right now. That definitely does still bug me quite a bit, is how crazy the situation can get where you're in a tightly, like a CQC, or I'm sorry, like just a close quarters situation where you're in like a hallway or a corridor, and the camera just doesn't know what the hell to do. It's like bouncing off the walls, and it's like halfway embedded into your face, and it just seems like it needs a little bit of work. And in reference to previous Resident Evil games, it kind of seems like the game lacks a little bit of polish. Like, it seems like that this is probably a demo thing, and it most likely is the fact that the game is not completely done yet, and we're just playing like an older build. But the game does kind of lack polish. What I do like is the interface. I do like the fact that you can see everything to your bottom right. I like the start screen. It's actually really cool how that works on like a cell phone, so there's some good things to Resident Evil 6. There's some things that kind of bug me. Some stuff that I hope the game will resolve later on when it comes out. So, if you guys enjoyed this impressions of the pros and cons of Resident Evil 6, please leave a comment below or a thumbs up. If you liked the video or if you agreed with something, another comment would be appreciated. But yeah, if you guys also want to see me do a full Let's Play of the game once again, or if you want to see me trying to tackle some challenging methods of this demo, like I think I'm actually going to try Jake with fists only and see how that goes. But until then, thank you guys very much for watching. This has been Max, and I'll see you next time.